Kevin O'Connell, coach of the Minnesota Vikings, joins us each and every Tuesday at about this time. In the business, we call it X's and O's. If you're hearing it live on Tuesday, welcome. If you're watching it at Vikings.com, welcome. If you're hearing it Wednesday evening with the playback at X's and O's, welcome to you too. And the head coach joins us now. How are the wife and kids, and how are Bill and Suzanne doing?
Well, no pool jumps this past weekend. As you saw, my dad after the Lions game jumped in his non-heated San Diego pool.
As did your mom.
Just about everybody did, PA, but unfortunately, no pool jumps this past Sunday.
Oh, wait,
but
there was some pool jumping.
Yeah, there was. The pool was empty though. But
there's no diving board.
No, that's right. Yeah, it was. They're doing well. Kids are doing well.
Excellent.
Fighting through a little. Got a sick kid at home, but we're fighting through it a little bit.
Well,
I'm sure many listeners out there are going through the same thing.
You have 4 children, right?
Yes.
So you have sick kid, which means you're going to have sick kids.
Exactly.
Eventually,
yes.
But like a lot of things, it too shall pass.
Like a lot of things.
And we welcome Kevin to the show now. Let me ask you this question. Bill and Suzanne, I'm glad things are well. Leah and the kids, right on. Chicago's plus 14 in the take give with a league best 20 takes. How's that happening?
Well, I think they've given up some yards, they've given up some plays, but they have really, very similar to us a year ago. If you think about it defensively, we were leading the league in turnovers, and it felt like all those extra possessions gave us a lot of opportunities to win games, tight games where we needed to, find a rhythm offensively, and we were able to do that. And I think it's been very similar. They've been able to force some big turnovers and some big moments, and it's ultimately led to those guys having chances to win a lot of games. They've, Ben's done a great job, with that entire team, and I think DA has kind of really centered on, hey, we're going to force turnovers. We might give up a play here or there, but we're going to be explosive in forcing turnovers, getting to the quarterback at times. They've got a nice third down pressure package that's been very successful for them, allowing them to get to the quarterback. And definitely a challenge. As we learned in the opener, it took us a good bit there to find a rhythm, and then when we did, we were able to move it and score.
Dallas Turner. I heard the press conference yesterday, and how can the league look at that sack and find any problem with it? And as a teacher, like you are, you're a coach, but you're a teacher. Well, how does one teach? And subsequently, how does one learn to avoid whatever one allegedly did wrong?
Yeah, well, you're here a lot during training camp. PA, Pete, I think you're here every day. But you guys will see those guys doing drills on the heavy bag or on the tall bags of getting to the, simulating getting to the quarterback, striking and legally, understanding where the strike zone is. And then the last phase of that has become a big part of the league of protecting quarterbacks is that, fully putting your body weight on top of the quarterback as he goes down. It's probably the part of roughing the passer that, if a lot of the old school NFL fans and guys that used to sack the quarterback a lot in the league, I've talked to a lot of our former, Vikings legends that look at that and say, how in the world can that be a penalty? But the way the line-by-line rule of roughing the passer is now, it is indeed a penalty. And you just got to try to find a way to slide, off to the side in any way, shape, or form you can. It's very, very difficult to do.
It sounds like it's going to lead to a face mask.
And either that or, you're going to have a guy missing some opportunities on sacks because they're, trying to maybe start that process to slide into the side early. Or quarterbacks, unfortunately, they do move. Jonathan Grenard, if the quarterback didn't move, Jonathan Grenard would have about 10 sacks right now with how much he's gotten to the quarterback. And that's just part of it. But it makes it very difficult for these guys to play violently and physically and defeat blocks. And then when they arrive at the quarterback, there's a whole new set of rules that are in play, and they've been, it's been a few years now, that rule, and we understand it.
Oh, okay. Well, and this is, this is not like Paul Allen, Homer, announcer guy, because in the game at Ford Field, honestly, I thought there were 2 calls against the Lions that I thought were garbage.
Yeah.
And when Pete and I are calling the game, I'm like, well, I don't get that, man. Hutchinson, whomever else it was. So this is just trying to get a hold of it on a week-to-week basis, because we've seen somebody sack, hit, and then, they lunge their body super heavy on top of the guy.
Yeah.
That wasn't it. And so, okay, so now if you wrap up around the waist on the sack, well, your full body weight's still coming down on somebody. I just don't understand
Well,
it.
I think
heard the press conference yesterday. I still don't understand
PA,
it.
we've had some, we had a week-to-week instance of an interpretation of the rule, and I know it was discussed a little bit, and it ended up being ruled a clean play when there was fast motion down by a receiver and kind of a pseudo crack block on Gink on a screenplay. He ended up making the play on the play, but we just wanted clarity, so we got a little clarity, and we're told that was legal because of this, and this. So and then we have a circumstance with Adam Thielen there on a pretty critical down where. Based upon some of those interpretations, we're trying to execute kind of a pick play there, and at or behind the line of scrimmage, and you have to try to make that legal. They determined it wasn't. There was some levels to it that kind of seemed like they were working through it. But what I've learned in my 4 years' time is crew to crew, there's going to be just different interpretations of how they see.
Okay.
Depending on formations, depending on things. It's happening fast out there. Those officials have a very, very difficult job. But I've just learned that week to week, the line could be read from the rule book the same way, but might be played out a little differently, and that's part of football.
McCarthy, your quarterback. Who, in your estimation, would be the best quarterback in the history of Minnesota Vikings football? All the way back to 61.
That would be Fran Tarkenton.
Fran Tarkenton, HOF, right? So that would be the statistical and realistic right answer. In Fran Tarkenton's first 4 starts, he threw 1 touchdown and 6 interceptions. He completed 50% of his passes, and his yards per attempt was a whopping 5.5. 5.5. Fair to say, and he ended up in the Hall of Fame. Fair to say, with young, inexperienced quarterbacks, there have been and will be performance-related swings.
Yeah.
Is it just fair to say that?
Yeah, I think it's just, there's going to be natural growing pains that sometimes unearth themselves where, it could be the same rep from a practice rep that was, JJ had an unbelievable week of practice last week, maybe one of the best Friday practices we've had around here in a long time, and that went for our whole team. But then when you get into the games and just, snaps accumulating on top of each other from a standpoint of, protections and, getting hit as you're throwing on certain plays, even when I thought our O-line did a pretty decent job protecting them and giving them some clean pockets. What was the pocket movement like? What, did you move into some issues where maybe there's 3 or 4 more completions if we're not getting a block shot from one of those D linemen as we're navigating the home base of the pocket, and that can our tackles were doing a good job setting the width for the most part. And sometimes it's a subtle climb instead of 2 or 3 climbs. Just things that as you watch the tape, it's incredibly powerful learning moments, and we're talking about the player's 4th start as you mentioned. But all of that being said, I think he's really shown some real flashes of the true competitor, and this guy is out there giving absolutely everything he possibly can. And as we've talked about, sometimes it's not the scramble, and put yourself in harm's way. It's just check it down to Hawkinson on the backside of the formation for a gain of 8. He did it a couple times in the game to Jordan Mason on one, Aaron Jones on another play action. They were combined gains of 20 between the 2 completions, and I hit the headset and told him that might be my favorite play of the day right there.
Wow.
Just because it's just the understanding of a shot called, not necessarily meaning a shot taken.
Yep.
Completion mindsets, no matter what the variation of the play is, and it became difficult for our whole group, being behind the chains, due to the self-inflicted things that we had pre-snap the other day, and you would have loved to see some of those plays, earn first downs off of runs, maybe stack some more runs. I would have loved to see it because that's, what our plan was going into the game, but plans are always something that needs to be adjusted to try to win the football game.
Kevin, and you just mentioned it, with the tip passes at the line, is it, or as you would say, block shots, is it mostly an offensive lineman's job to present, as you would say, those block shots to prevent that is, or does most of it fall on the quarterback?
It's hard to put it all on the old lineman. We teach techniques to try to get hands down. If guys want to leave their feet, the next thing they should find is the earth. From a standpoint of D lineman leaving his feet, we should be, legally putting that player on the ground.
Don't have somebody fall on him with the body weight.
But it's also some of those, whether it's technique and fundamentals of eliminating some internal penetration, some push, away from the slide side. There was actually the throw where JJ, maybe one of the most impressive throws, we've had this year, when he threw it was 2nd and 15, he threw about a 25-yard strike to the front line, and Justin many times has come down with that ball. He didn't in that case, but that was even following through some of that push. But then other times there was issues in the game where just the great initial pocket movement, finding that home base and that safe space in the pocket, but then continuing to allow that momentum to take him right up into the back of either a Blake or a Donovan or a Fries. And then those guys, Baltimore was huge in the interior. They weren't really dynamic rushers, but they affected the quarterback by getting either push, or when they were blocked, they were getting their hands up and getting their hands on some footballs, which were critical, because all 4 of the block shots, it's easy for me to sit back and say they're all completions, but when you turn on the tape and see, Jordan Addison on a backside in cut wide open, or the third and 3 in the red zone before we went for it on 4th and 3. I mean, that is a walk-in touchdown out as he wraps around that linebacker, which would have been a phenomenal progression play by JJ. He did everything right, just a little bit too much movement. And you know what? The first thing he said yesterday when I was watching the game with him was, if I could just settle down on that 2nd or 3rd hitch. And I, got a big smile on my face, and I said, "What do you think we're going to be working on this week?" And then that's where we're at right now. Well, and having a blast doing it with him, but we've got to find a way to win football games at the same time.
I mean, the way you just explained that, and as smart as you are, you can use that to your advantage. What's happening in front of you. I mean, now we're getting cute and tricky here, holding the ball a little longer, but like fakes, and they go up because we know everybody blocks your shots. Oh, wow, and then something with it. That's generally how people like you think, is taking something that it may be bugging you or not working great, use it to your advantage.
Hey, well, that's the thing with the block shots, is working great and the result of the play end up being such a stark contrast of what the actual reality was, and doesn't bode well for kind of, digesting what happened,
right.
Either from the chalk, where we stand on the sidelines, or from the stands, or up where you call the game. It doesn't make it any easier for any of us.
That's Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. This is 9 to noon. We have a talk back coming a little later on a talk back Tuesday for the head coach, and he did mention false starts. So end of the equation. What mostly played into the false starts, and do we need former FBI agent Bill to investigate if the Ravens were illicitly mocking cadence leading to said jumps?
Yeah, they weren't.
They weren't at all?
No. I mean, there may have been some move calls and things, because a couple of them, actually 2 of them took place on the same play was called, where we were simply setting the front with a motion and trying to get another run off. At the same time, JJ went through his initial cadence to make sure we were good with the run play that was called. We had a flinch, both times. And
so just a series of errors.
But there was other examples. I mean, there was one where, JJ had, he was thinking about snapping this ball on a timely cadence where we wouldn't let the motion get reset. And in his mind, he said one thing, and when he got to the line of scrimmage, that was one that was called on him. And then there were some other times where, we were trying to communicate up front a little bit during said cadence, and there was just some confusion there. I think we've got to have a crisper huddle operation. I'm a big fan. I've said this before, of if the huddle is clean, everybody breaks the huddle with total absolute certainty of play, formation, play, motion, whatever it is, and ultimately have that clean huddle break. It normally leads to clean execution for sure in the pre-snap, and we absolutely were totally crushed by it the other day, because they were all on, like I said yesterday, 5 out of the 8 were on earned first down or first down, where we were stacking momentum within a drive. And it's been a theme all season long, is stacking positive plays. And when we do that, we're able to move the ball and score with some pretty consistent performance. And then when we have those, and I certainly have my hand in it. It is absolutely something that I've got to try to find a way to limit those negatives that happen post-snap with the play call selections, and I absolutely can continue to fit what this team this year does well with how we call these games. But at the same time, we need that total focus and absolute certainty of what my job is pre- and post-snap as an all-11 group. And good things happen for the Vikings offense when we do that, and that's what we're going to continue to chase.
Well said. The team's response off the Chargers loss was terrific, and that of professionalism, efficiency, and ferocity. Likewise off Atlanta, Cincinnati paid for it. So I would imagine you're absolutely expecting the same noon this Sunday against the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, I just know we've got the group that they'll respond, they'll band together. They're as focused as they've been all season long. And what I've challenged these guys for, even going into last week, was we need to start showing at this point in time in the season that we've got that competitive stamina to do it week in and week out consistently in games without the lapses of times in games where we allow our opponents to recapture momentum if we have it, or it becomes further and further away from our grasp, and that's where we're at in the season, and it's great to have the response, and I know our guys will put together a heck of a week of practice and be ready to go Sunday, but we've got to start seeing it consistently to give us a chance to get to where we want to get to.
Before we close and get into some Bears minutia, we're heading into the 10th game now. Why do you think there are just 3 interceptions? Why do you think you guys have just 3 interceptions through 9?
Yeah, it's obviously been a pretty big difference from last year, all those extra possessions and those game-changing plays. I think we talk a lot about tips and overthrows, and we've had I think we had 3 or 4 the other day where the ball was up in the air and it finds the turf at US Bank Stadium. It's just not at least in the short term, things that over the last few games you're thinking about as a coach and I know Flo thinks about them. How do we continue to find ways to cause disruption and see if we can get opportunities at the football? Mm-hmm. Those things have a way of working out, and if they awarded the turnover margin winner at this point, I think a lot of teams would sign up for that. We would not be one of them. We want to go ahead and get this thing back where it belongs. It's a very, very important thing. I look at every game with this year's team as a line of scrimmage game from a standpoint of our fronts on both sides of the ball having an impact on the other team's front. And then PA, we got to be all about the ball. We got to start winning the turnover battle. We're 33-4 when we break even or better. Yep. Since I've been coaching this team, and you show up to the stadium even, and that's on us to keep it that way or improve our standards there.
Chicago is 0-2 this year versus the NFC North. The last 5, the Bears out of the bye 4-1, lost to the Ravens with Tyler Huntley, not Lamar Jackson. Last 5, they've run at 185 a clip, 185 yards a clip. What's that doing to help them win?
Well, they're running the ball. They're running all the complementary plays off of their run game. I think their O-line has really gelled when you watch them. Mm-hmm. I think the acquisitions they made in the offseason, I think their right tackles, Darnell's turning into one of the better right tackles in football. And they were able to kind of solidify that left tackle spot that seemed to be kind of up for grabs there for a little bit. But they're playing, they're gelling. And then I think what that's allowing them is not to be so drop-back oriented in the early downs. You're seeing a lot more of the deeper play actions. You're seeing a lot more of the keepers, the movement game, the screen game off of their run game. And, what we've got to try to do is stop that run game and force them to be a little bit more of a one-dimensional team, by putting them behind the chains, 1st and 15, 2nd and longs, things like that.
Yes, sir. Wide receiver DJ Moore has 3 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 1 rushing, 1 passing. The Jefferson pass Sunday was a beauty. How do you know when to run tricks like that?
Well, you're attempting to call them in in moments where we've had several called this year where we just didn't get the look, and we end up canning the play, changing the play to something else, and coming back to it again and trying to get the look. That was a little bit more of a longer yardage situation where kind of a breather play for JJ where he doesn't have to drop back and read the defense and make protection calls. And we elicit the response that Justin gets when we throw him the ball. Now, ideally, in a world where you get the exact look you want for the play and there's one player to block and you have 3 linemen to block them, ideally you'd like to find a way to get those yards to convert. Sir. And then we would have started the game 4-4 on third down. And what does that look like? There was some frustration there just overall, one or two guys just understanding a little bit more about, what we were looking for there. And that's on me. That's got to give the clarity to these guys because I know when I do it, they respond and perform.
Saving the best for last, it involves the Jaylens. First, the guy on offense. Here's the talkback.
Good morning, Coach O'Connell. This is Corey from Duluth, Minnesota. That Jaylen Naylor performance this past Sunday against the Ravens was absolutely electric. My question for you is, going forward, will opposing defenses have to pay more attention to Speedy, and will that open up more targets for Jets, Addison, and Hawkinson? Thanks for your time, and I hope you have a great day.
Thanks, bud.
Yeah, it's a great question, and really we've been, you and I have talked about Speedy a lot on this show, just any chance I get publicly to talk about him because it's not always.
Since 2 preseasons ago when you featured him in the preseason games.
Yeah, it's just not always, the ball doesn't always find him, but it did this past Sunday, and he was, absolutely fantastic. Some third down, some big third down plays, some explosives, and Speedy is just playing fast. He's playing through contact. He's getting a lot of one-on-ones because of Jordan and Justin and TJ, and there's a lot of featured coverage to take away some of those guys sometimes, and Speedy goes to work in those moments, and we got to continue to give him opportunities to do that. But yes, I think the second part of that question is accurate. You've got to really decide, when we're able to throw the ball outside of our consistent commitment to running the ball. You got to really decide how you want to handle the weapons that we do have, because Justin, Jordan, Speedy, TJ, Aaron Jones out of the backfield have proven to be playmakers that can change the game at any time and really elicit a response from the defense that helps kind of make everything go. And we've just got to find a way to make those plays, eliminate the negatives, run the football consistently. And when we get to those weighty downs and those third downs, those red zone opportunities like we did in the game the other day, Jaylen Naylor had 2 big conversions on third down, and he had a 4th down touchdown when we absolutely had to have it to keep that game within reach.
And lastly, the Jaylens, saving the best for last. The early part of the game, I think he had 6 tackles in a quarter and a half, something like that. Jaylen Redmond was all over the place.
He's been fantastic.
Now, the story is unbelievable if you get into the depth of the blood clots. And his best friend died at age 23, and everybody gave up on him. Carolina exposed him, not in a negative way, but other teams can come get him. He had a calf strain, couldn't figure out what was going on. It was blood clot related.
Yep.
Quiet going kind of guy, but he is just a rolling ball of butcher knives on that defensive line, getting around specifically these bigger offensive linemen. I thought in the first half, I thought that's as good a work against the run as I've ever seen him do.
Yeah, and he's lined up absolutely everywhere. I mean, you've seen him at defensive end, you've seen him at nose, you've seen him at 3 technique. I mean, he is capable of just about anything, and we really have needed that just with the versatility of Jaylen Redmond allows Hargrave and Jonathan Allen to be not only in their multiple spots they're comfortable at, but playing the play style that we brought them here to do. And that's been big over these last couple weeks, seeing that come to life. But I'm so glad you asked about him, and he has been a phenomenal story. And if you see him walking the halls around here, he's never ever had a bad day, since I've met him. And
same with Elijah Williams.
It really is remarkable because those guys, I've seen some D linemen now have some bad days just because they got to be down there in the trenches all day long. But Jaylen Redmond has had some swagger about him, and his performances have been fantastic.
Well, why I laughed when I mentioned Elijah, undrafted from Morgan State, worked his tail off to make the active roster. I don't know if he had been on too many airplanes, but it's like he was so wide-eyed with these cities teams get to fly to and the hotels and wow. I mean, he's just so authentic and fantastic, just like Jaylen Redmond, just like you. Tear it up this weekend, all right?
Appreciate you guys.
And we will preview Lambeau Field next week. That's Kevin O'Connell, head coach of the Minnesota Vikings, and I'm Paul Allen. That's X's and O's. We'll be right back.